Gospel. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus had just finished speaking when a Pharisee invited him to dine at his house. He went in and sat down at the table. The Pharisee saw this and was surprised that he had not first washed before the meal. But the Lord said to him, "O you Pharisees, you clean the outside of cup and plate, while inside yourselves you are filled with extortion and wickedness. Fools! Did not he who made the outside make the inside too? Instead, give alms from what you have, and then indeed everything will be clean for you." The Gospel of the Lord. May the words of the Gospel wipe away all our sins. Now we began the letter of St. Paul to the Romans yesterday for our daily Mass readings, and today moving on through chapter 1. It's a famous passage, famous moment in St. Paul's letter there, and worth at least keeping the hook that I like to offer in mind, just the connection with what this particular chapter of St. Paul's letter is about. And he speaks of those who reject the evidence, the plain evidence of God and the existence of God that is in sight. Perfectly plain to them, he says. You know, when you just look around at the visible world and the beauty of visible creation and all the indications, he says that such people are without excuse. You know, as God, ever since God created the world, his everlasting power and deity, however invisible, have been there for the mind to see in the things he has made. In other words, wake up, look around, see the evidence just all around us, the beauty of autumn now, and the leaves turning colour, the days shortening, but each season with its own characteristic and its own time. And is that not surely the work of God's hand? We've had a couple of beautiful moons, the last couple of nights as well, autumn moons, I suppose. But again, an indication of the great glory of creation. They're there to behold God's hand at work. So those who would reject God then are without excuse. And the trouble is, such as those who turn away from God, their minds become darkened. And there's a turning in on self. And as St. Paul says, they exchange the glory of the immortal God for worthless imitation. Whether it's mortal man, ourselves, glorifying the body beautiful and all these things, birds, quadrupeds, reptiles, anything else. God leaves them to their filthy enjoyments and practices. So we see that very much all around us, to the measure that society and our world, and sadly those even whom we know, reject God. And what do they put into that space instead? What do they fill it with? But with self-indulgence of all kinds. And sadly again we see the fruit of that is death. It's self-destruction in the end, if God is not placed first. And who ends up inheriting the earth? You know, again you can ask that question. Who will be the future generations but the children of those who stay close to God and who believe in God and have faith in God? And these will be the ones who will be bearing children and looking upon them as a gift and a treasure and a blessing. And they will inherit the earth, the meek, as scriptures say. So the externals are simply not enough. Jesus point to the Pharisees. He's been invited to dine with them, and they're all into the observance of outward rules, you know, conforming with the world. Again, that's a symptom of our world today too. It's being kind of keeping up with others, or allowing ourselves to be preoccupied with what others think or say. What's the latest fashion, the latest opinion poll, all of these things. These are all exterior. So Jesus reminding us that it's the interior life that matters. Instead, give alms, give of our time, give of our talent, give of our treasure. That's how we become beautiful and, you know, turn away from the extortion and the wickedness of the world. So as our 40 days continues here in our Adoration Chapel, do join us here on Facebook as well and YouTube for a time of adoration with us in the afternoons. But this is a lovely way of allowing ourselves to be filled with the things of God, the presence of Christ, not just with the externals that have their place, but in a minor key. So we thank the Lord for this reminder today that we seek first the things of God. All these other things will be added unto us.